What's up, guys? Cajun here, and I may be a little low. It's kind of late. I'm doing this away from everyone, so I'm a bit louder, but still trying to be quiet because it is 1:30 in the morning, and I'm trying to get this out. Anyway, this is about the competitive live stream that was on April 29th. So if you're interested in competitive, this is definitely the video to watch all the way through. You can also watch the VOD, but I think I might be able to get the info a bit faster. Not sure. I do plan on leaving time codes as well in the bottom, so hopefully I don't forget to do that. But anyway, here we go. So it was Waddy and Edwin on the stream, and if you don't know who Edwin is, he is one of the game designers. He mostly deals in weapon balancing, game modes, how ranked works, ranked systems, etc., etc. In this stream was for the competitive players, to let them know and have more transparency between the dev team and the competitive scene. So first thing Waddy wanted to talk about was the tournament organizer program update. He said it's close to release, starting to accept TOs into the program and getting them set up in the Discord. And he said he wants to start off with a select group of TOs who are already pretty much established and doing tournaments already, and start slowly opening it up to more people who want to host tournaments. Note, big note here, you need to be in this program to get community prizing options, because I believe the last system was being abused by some tournament organizers, and so Critical Force wants to do this to kind of limit that, and also just to get feedback easier from the tournament organizers, because there was no connection between the two. It was just the tournament organizers doing their thing and Critical Force doing their thing, and Waddy wants a very good connection with the tournament organizers. So then they went over the Reddit post that was made earlier in the week, the 13 versus 16 round post. And they got a lot of feedback. One of the biggest ones was, I like 16, or I like 13. So those weren't taken into account as much because they were looking for more lengthy replies and well thought out replies. So basically, they made pros and cons for each system. So the pros for first to 16 works for the current comp economy, which Edwin agreed with. You have more time to come back and more exciting matches. Edwin didn't really agree with this one. He said, you do have more time to come back, but any game should be exciting no matter how long it is, because the game is exciting in the first place. And then the competitive scene has been used to 16 for the past year. And big note here, and I think I'm going to talk about this again later, Critical Force never changed this. It was always 13. The community themselves decided to adapt to 16 for whatever reason, probably to be more like CSGO, and probably because they did think the economy favored 16 rounds to win better. But yeah, that was never changed by Critical Force. And then the cons for best of 16, games can last quite a long time. Could be a blowout, just takes a lot of wasted time for the viewer. Best of 3s and best of 5s would take an insane amount of time. You know, you look at Cole, they did a best of 3. That stream was like 7 hours or so. I really can't remember. And look at CS. Those streams, like the major, the grand finals best of 3, those streams go on for like a good 8 hours just for 3 games. The streams are usually 12 hours because they have the show match before, whatever, yada yada. But yeah, it takes an insane amount of time for 16 rounds. Pros for 13 rounds to win. Makes COPS different from other games. The whole reason 13 rounds was here to begin with is that CSGO was 16 rounds. This is a mobile game. Let's make it 13 rounds to just differentiate ourselves. And then Valorant came along, and now we're going to be seen as copying Valorant, but whatever. Another pro, games aren't as long as 16, so you have more time to play and more time to do stuff rather than those 3 extra rounds eventually all adding up. Well, actually 6 rounds, is it? 5 rounds? I don't know. Anyway, and then past tournaments have been proven to work with this format, and players don't get burnt out. So what you're seeing a lot of now is that, okay, in these best of 3s, best of 5s, you're getting best of, what is it for 16? Best of 30? Or best of 31, whatever it is. You're getting players that just get burnt out of the game after so long leaving, and then you got to get a sub in. So hopefully, 13 rounds will be more encouraging to stay in the game. Cons for 13, too short, and pistol round is too OP, causes the losing team to most of the time start off 0 wins to 3 round wins. So what Critical Force wanted to do is lay out the ideal amount of rounds in COPs. So 16 rounds isn't something that devs don't like. It's not that they don't like it, but the main problem is it's too long. Best of 3s, best of 5s would suffer too much for the viewer and for the casters as well. I've been talking about the viewers. I didn't even think about the casters and the tournament organizers having to also run this. Devs believe the better choice in comp scene is 13 rounds. At the end of the day, COPS is a mobile game. There are multiple things to consider. Battery, definitely not the main argument here. It is one of the cons to 16 rounds. Yeah, not everyone has an iPad Pro to last that long, but some devices also ghost touch when you plug it in. I haven't had that. Waddy said he's had that on a couple devices, but ghost touch is definitely a thing that you want to stray away from in a competitive environment, because you want to be at the best of your game, and ghost touch knocks you down a peg. Wi-Fi, mobile games are played on Wi-Fi as opposed to PC games. They're played through a direct Ethernet port, so you're not disconnecting as much as you are in Critical Ops. Mouse and keyboard versus touch. You eventually get fatigued playing in different positions. Some people somehow play with their knees up and their device on their knee. Don't know how that works. I think it was either Knight doing that or King Aid that was doing that in the LAN. Don't know how people do that. And why do you give an example of himself? Once he starts playing too long, his thumb starts going raw. So he has to have those finger guards. And so that's another thing to think about as well. And they wanted to iterate that, yes, the competitive players are important, and they want their feedback, but also they have to think of a lot of the other people, casters, organizers, viewers, etc. Not only do you have to think about the competitive players, but the casual players who want to watch as well. Because you want, if you're a team like Gankstars, you want people to be watching your matches. You want people in those streams. Also, as well as the tournament organizers. To get sponsors, they need viewers in those streams. And if you have too long of a game, it discourages the viewer watching the whole thing, and then eventually the sponsors not getting, or the tournament organizers not getting those required numbers for their sponsorship, and they may lose a sponsorship. Who knows? And then they talked about how 10% of the players are competitive players. The rest are casual players that would be watching the tournaments. So with this info, Critical Force wanted to create a standard. So the whole project that Waddy and Mako have been working on since they've announced this, a month ago now, has been like a big puzzle. Critical Force isn't here to just throw one tournament and then go back in their hole again and forget about the comp scene. They're looking towards the future, and it's a big plan that coincides with everything. I've known about this for about a month or two, and I've been so excited. Like, I wanted to talk about this, what Waddy eventually talks about later, but just knowing has been hyped. I've been hyped up for the next 2-3 years of Critical Ops esports. Most important part here is that 13 rounds will not only be for tournaments, but for ranked. Critical Force setting a standard for 13 rounds for ranked is that so players who are playing can understand the 13-round format. They'll understand the competitive aspect of tournaments easier than the current 9 rounds. Strats would be the same in 13 rounds for ranked, so that they can go into competitive eventually if they want. Not only that, but the players will be able to understand everything that would be going on in a streamed tournament. Easier than if you were watching a 9-round ranked. Also, once they reach spec or elite ops, like I said a bit ago, they may go into the competitive scene and already have an idea of how to play, what to do, what strats are good, etc., rather than having to learn a basically whole new game, because 9 rounds, 13 rounds, vastly different, and I'm excited for it. Even though in testing I still bottom frag, but it's whatever. I've gotten to test this new format, and it's really, really good. I can't talk about everything that was in there, but the last testing session we did was 13 rounds. Kind of, both testing sections we've done with 13 round ranked has been separating the weapons. Sorry, I had to drink some water. Has been separating the weapons. This time, that's a balance changes thrown in, and it's really balanced the way it is right now. So I think it's going to be great to have 13 round ranks, and we'll get into balance changes stuff in a bit. Yeah, season 3 will be planned release for the first to 13 format and ranked. Soon. TM. The point of this is to have the game all standardized so that ranked isn't 9, community tournaments are 13 or 16. They're all the same. Ranked is 13, community tournaments 13, official tournaments 13, circuit 13, which we're going to be going into in a bit. It's like a bridge, what he said. Ranked eventually leads to community tournaments, which will lead to joining a team for official tournaments. So 13 rounds. Why is it good? Pistol rounds are too harsh. Some maps may be sided a certain way. As a competitive team, Wadi states, shouldn't you be good and adapt no matter what the problems are? Shouldn't they be able to adapt to a new way of playing? Critical Force isn't just saying, here's 13 rounds, screw you, competitive scene. This is how it is. They're looking into ways to improve for the first to 13 round format. What people are forgetting is that the game can change for the economy. Edwin says they have plans to fit the 13 round format better than what they have currently. Something that is being thought of when switching to first to 13. It's not just round limit that's changing, but the whole economy and meta is changing to go with it. The main problem is pistol. A lot of people have said so. Therefore, something Critical Force is considering is changing the loss bonus from pistols, changing weapon prices for later rounds, etc. Edwin definitely agrees that pistol rounds shouldn't have this much effect on the entire game. Also thinking about different things like freeze time increase. Currently it's way too short to formulate a plan and get situated per round. It's planned to change from 10 seconds to 15 seconds so that you can communicate with your teammates better. And then Wadi points out that they no longer want to view the game as competitive changes and casual changes, but rather the game as a whole changing. And then later in the stream, they said the possibility of overtime eventually. Yeah, it could eventually come, but Critical Force is still a small team, and other things need improving first. The most meaningful features will be coming to future releases, but overtime is definitely something that has been thought of a lot. And I really do agree with that point. Sorry. I really do agree with that point that overtime needs to be a thing, because you get to 12-12, and then a mistake happens, you lose one round, and all that's for nothing. Especially if it's a comeback, it's all for nothing, basically. So I think overtime would be great in a 13-round format. Second of all, Critical Force doesn't want everyone to only be good with certain guns. So therefore, weapon pools will be split for the players to learn more guns. So each faction will have their own set of weapons. Some are shared, some will be split. Warpaint diffuse is kind of a good viewing of what this is kind of gonna be like. Hello, English. And a lot of people received Warpaint Diffuse well. Critical Force started playing around with the idea with faction weapons, and will be released soon, I believe, in Season 3 as well. They didn't outright say it, but I think that's going to be the plan. Each faction will only have their own weapon pools. Also helps alter the economy even further. It'll be interesting to see what the meta... It'll be interesting to see the meta when the new faction weapons are added. Maybe this will also help with the thought process of the CT-sided and T-sided thoughts about maps from players. This also gives more options for adding new weapons to the game eventually. In the last 2 testing sessions, Ts have had, at least for rifles and big round buys, AK and SG, the breach kits, and my computer just died. Alright, and we're back. So for the breach, AK and SG, for the coalition, M4 and AUG, TRG, U ratio, and HK and SA will be shared between both sides. And also rebalancing will come as well to make both sides even, rather than just splitting them like they were in Warpaint Diffuse. So, of course, this is a new beginning for the comp scene. A lot has been said about how Critical Force basically abandoned the comp scene. And the reason Wadi wants to talk about all this is for the competitive players to start practicing, to get used to the new formats, transparency, anything you want to, any way you want to put it. Wadi wants the competitive players to know, hey, I'm working on this. I'm with you guys. I promise this is going to be good. And mainly to get everyone ready for the future of the comp scene. So, official tournaments. What does this mean? Like it was said before, official tournaments are coming. For those thinking it's going to be LAN or pro tournaments or whatever, it's not. At least not at first. Wadi will be. Wadi said he will be happy if he can get out of his house by 2021 before thinking about LAN. So the first series will be the Critical Ops circuit. That'll be the first set of official tournaments. Planned to happen at least twice a year, and will run for a couple of months. These official tournaments happen all the time, and these events will also have cash prize pool. The circuit, in Wadi's opinion, before having any sort of pro league, there has to be consistency throughout the year, so that the competitive players have something to look forward to. This will also help towards team chemistry, rather than disbanding after one tournament and hopefully sticking with a certain roster. Because in the past, what we've seen is players just hop around clans and stuff, hop around teams. Hopefully, the Critical Ops circuit will keep players together to get to learn and stick with each other. It'll show the teams that are really on the grind and want to be part of the competitive scene, and then eventually maybe get invited to some type of pro league that happens in the future. After all these different things come together, tournament organizer program, official tournaments, etc., then Critical Force can start thinking about pro league, LANs, etc. And a big thing about Critical Ops as well, you already have one LAN event, why not have another? And that's why he said that's the top thing that the players want to go to. That's what they want to work towards. You get to meet your teammates and the devs IRL. We saw it with Gankstars, Hammers, Nova, all these other teams that went to the LAN in, 2016, 2017, something like that. And Wadi was able to go himself. He was working with, he had started working with Critical Force at that time. And he said it was cool to be able to go to the LAN and see all these players like Joker, King A, Melio, Cam, all these great players that you don't really see their face, you just see their gameplay. And it was awesome. He said it was also awesome to see them grow through the comp scene as well. And ultimately, yes, that's something that Critical Force wants to do in the future. Everything they've been planning all eventually comes together to get to that point. Normalizing ranked to bring people to community tournaments, to eventually bring people into the circuit, qualify for Pro League, etc., etc. There's something always going on for all players in the game, no matter if you're casual, just want to solo queue ranked, or you want to start going competitive and try and work towards Pro League and stuff like that. Note, the LAN isn't even being talked about yet. I saw a lot of questions in chat about what's the age limit, yada yada, because Call of Duty just recently put an 18 plus age limit to people that could go to the LAN, which kind of sucks for people that are 17. Granted, the age limit for the game itself is 18 plus, so yeah, it's weird and it sucks for those 17-year-olds and 16-year-olds that are gods at the game, but unfortunately it's just the case that they're not quite old enough and they gotta wait a year. So no age limit has been thought about for Critical Ops LANs, but at the last one I believe it was 16. I'm not sure, don't quote me on it, but it'll probably be 16 or 18 or something like that. And then one last thing, cash prizes for the circuit were mentioned. Talking about that as well as the format for circuits soon. Nothing is definitively set in stone. Jesus, I can't talk. There probably will be game prizes, 2 in-game prizes. Everything that Critical Force has been talking about is a long-term plan. They want a strong foundation to make sure everything works together. They feel this plan is very, very centered on the community, and they want existing and new users to know they'll be working on this to improve everything in the future. And that's basically all that was talked about in the competitive live stream. So a lot of info. Again, if you want to go watch the VOD, feel free to go do that. This is all the info that I thought was pretty important, jammed into a 21 minute, 3 minute video. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Tell me what your thoughts on all of this are. If you are going to be trying to do competitive, I might try and do competitive eventually again. I'm garbage though, so if anyone wants to carry me for in-game credits for community tournaments, feel free. I'm down. If it means easy credits for me, I'm down. But anyway, let me know what you guys think, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.